Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, I've got Doug Kennedy joining me. Doug is the president of the Kennedy Training Network, and he spent the last 36 years training hospitality professionals all about heart and hospitality. And it's not only about heart and hospitality, it's about heart and business. And it's not only about heart and business, it's about heart in our lives. Anywhere where there's people, our families, our friends, everybody around us, it's all about treating people right and treating people with kindness. Because you know what? It's all about living with a better spirit and making better lives for ourselves. It's amazing. He is a wonderful human being. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe and share this. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life experiences of people who have been there and done that in terms of finding better in their own lives. And the idea here is that sometimes a really great path to success is to copy it, right? And so our ideas are that, maybe you can learn from some of the things that we've done, both good and bad, that you can apply to your life or not, right? Okay, so share this. We have a really, really fun guest today. Very good friend of mine, Doug Kennedy. All right, so here we go. So Doug is a president, as you can see behind him, of the Kennedy Training Network, and and over the last 30 years, he's keynoted over 150 conferences. He's trained over 40,000 people in 18 countries and 49 states on what he calls the heart of hospitality. I love that. It's all about travel and the lodging industries. And I invited Doug to join me here on our Finding Better podcast because with his 30 years of experience, he has a lot to share, a lot that he can share in hospitality. And, we talk about hospitality, but here's what I want you to, all of us are not in hospitality, but we are all about taking care of people, right? Taking care of our friends, taking care of our family. That's what this is all about. And I love his theme of heart of hospitality because that's what you've heard me say. It's all about love. It's all about love. And here's a secret. When you take care of people, it's not only good for your spirit, but it's good for your personal life. And some of the things we're going to talk about, it's also good for business. So, Doug, okay, welcome to Finding Better. I'm so
Thank you.
thrilled that you're here.
It's fantastic to be with you and having just reconnected with you at the DARM conference and seeing your presentation basically
Yep.
about love. And then you attended my session on the heart of hospitality. We have
Yes.
a lot in common.
We have a lot in common. We have more in common that I know than I know you and I think we do. But listen, your business and what you do, you've been doing this for a long, long time. And one of the things, I mean, you are all about heart, right?
Yeah,
And one of the things I talk about is we need to bring more heart back into business
yeah,
and bringing more heart back into the world, right? So
absolutely.
before we talk a little bit about your business and what you're
Yeah.
doing out there, um, we want to know about you, right?
Okay.
What makes you tick? I mean, the work that you do, I mean, you're traveling. You're traveling
Yeah.
14 of the next 16 days. You're traveling all over the world. And
Yeah.
that takes a lot of work and a lot of energy. What drives you? I mean, what is it? What is it? Yeah. What
Well,
what drives you and what
I'm going
keeps
to
you
give
going?
you two answers to that question.
Yeah.
The first one is people ask me all the time, like, okay, it's actually, this is my 36th year. Now, you know,
30. Okay, there you
you're
go.
supposed to say, there's no way you look that old, Doug. Okay.
No, you do look
Oh,
36, Doug. I'm
no,
sorry.
I didn't say 36. I don't want to be 36, but I don't want to look old enough to have done this for 36 years.
Yeah.
But I did start in my late 20s. So the first answer is what drives me today to work so hard because I do work. Sometimes I work, like in the month of January, almost every day I've either been training, flying, and when I'm flying, I'm working. I think you know how that goes from all your
Yeah.
years on the road. And then, yeah, I'm the guy actually, if I don't get my free upgrade or my exit row seat, if I'm on a
Right.
carrier and fly
Right.
and the person leans back, actually that happened to me last week from Boston to Cabo San Lucas.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
actually working like this.
And
But
I gotta say, Doug, I gotta say, a lot of people, and I was one of them, when I first started my career, travel, business travel. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool.
what?
That glamour comes out of it on your
Yeah,
first trip, and you just,
somebody said, "Oh, you're going to Cabo. Let me tell you a good restaurant." I'm like,
yeah,
dude,
that's
I'm
right.
training for 8 hours because I do some conference speaking, but mostly I'm a trainer, like small
Hmm.
group,
Right.
4 hour class repeated or an 8 hour class. Go back to the room. My guilty pleasure is to go running or the gym, and then I work.
Yeah. And then you
But
get back on the
anyway,
airplane.
the
Yeah.
first thing that drives me is fear of poverty. Now that sounds, weird, but I'm certainly a long way from poverty. I've been very
Yeah.
blessed, very
That
grateful for my
surprises me.
success. But I'll tell you, to this very day, it's fear of poverty. I come from humble beginnings.
Hmm.
My mom was a shopkeeper. I can talk more about that. That's how I learned hospitality. Started, we were the first rung of middle class. We climbed our way up. I started my business. Started it when I was 26. I fully launched and quit my full-time job in 1989. I was 20. I just about to turn 27, not even yet. Anyway, so and I was doing really good, and then we had the Desert Storm. I think you're old enough to remember
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
Evacuation
yeah.
Kuwait, hotel and travel went dead. And then we got back going from that, and then we had the savings and loan crisis of the early 90s. That killed my business. The dot-com bubble bust. On 9/11, I was literally flying to meet my two biggest clients that morning from Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia, New York, and
Oh.
continuing on to National Airport in DC at 8:30 in the morning. So I was in the air when the planes struck to
Uh,
meet Starwood and Marriott, my two biggest clients at the
yeah.
time. I employed 45 people, and I don't even remember how much my payroll was. We had 2 months with no revenue. Then I sold out. I got small again, started over. By the time my non-compete agreements ran out from selling the previous companies, I started again. I'm doing really well. I'm killing it. We got Lowe's hotel chain, rolling out training, then the Great Recession. So it's one thing after the other. Latest is, coronavirus. So that's what drives me. But, like
Yeah.
I said, I'm a long way from poverty.
Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, what you just talked about is a lesson of itself,
It
right?
is
I mean, it is shit happens,
the
folks.
highs and the
Shit
lows.
happens,
Yeah.
right? And what the words that kept coming into my mind as you were talking, Doug, is this too shall pass, right? Everything's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. This too shall
It
pass.
was, but at the same time, it's like a lot of the great athletes in any sport. I'm a huge basketball fan. Never get too high from the wins, never get too low from the losses.
That's
Just keep
right.
on.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I love it. But the other thing is I love hospitality. So I do teach either hospitality or hospitality sales. I'm a lodging industry hospitality and sales trainer. Within that, I train everything from the world's largest hotel, the Venetian Las Vegas, 7,000 rooms, to a small client that has 12 rooms in an inn.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm hospitality, whether it's sales or whatever. So the other thing that keeps me going, I'm sorry for the long answer, um, but is my drive for to inspire the world in kindness, love, empathy. When I was a young man, my first goal in college anyway was to be a rock star, but actually not really a rock star. I didn't want to, I didn't want to be famous as a musician. I wanted to write that song that was going to be like the
Ah,
next
okay.
Imagine by Lennon, or Blowing in the Wind by Dylan, or One Love by Marley. And I wanted to travel the world and inspire people, right, to higher good. And so I had a conversation with my daughter a couple years back. Julia, you met her. She's now our marketing
Hmm.
coordinator. And, and interestingly, I noticed your book you mentioned was inspired by a conversation with your daughter to continue the book right
Yeah.
behind you, American Grit. Great
Yeah.
book, by the way, listeners, if you haven't read it. But I said to Julia, she's still trying to figure it out. A couple years ago, especially, she was trying to figure out what's next. And I said, well, you don't really ever know. You just put one foot in front of the other. I
That's
said, look
right.
at
That's
me.
right.
I said, I set out to change the world, and teaching the philosophy of being better. She's like, Dad, that's actually what you do. You did your dream. And that's when it hit me like, I travel the world teaching kindness.
Yeah.
Really, that's what I do. That's
So,
the heart of
so okay,
hospitality.
okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk
Yeah,
about that. So, kindness and love
yeah,
and the things that we talked about that you just mentioned. A lot of people kind of go, yeah, that's just that's not the real world. That's not the
yeah,
real world, right? And that's just Pollyanna stuff. And I talk about it's all about love and bringing heart into
yeah.
business. But you've been doing it for 36 years. And what what so what are some of your well, not secrets, but what are some of the things that you've learned that you've incorporated into your own life
Yeah.
that has just made your life better?
Well, it is definitely, our work life and our personal lives are very integrated. If you just look at the number of awake hours we have in life, 24 hours in a day, we aspire to sleep 8. Okay, maybe you don't sleep 8, but by the time
Aspire.
you get ready for bed and wake up in the morning and everything else associated with going to bed, you have about 15, 16 hours. Most of us work 8, if not more. Half your
Hmm.
life at work, man. Better enjoy it, because I often like to tease the young people. It's great being young, isn't it? Yeah, you just enjoy that. There's one good thing about being older. I don't have to work that many more years. Then I always say, yeah, I'll get old. All my hair will be gone. Eventually, I'll be dead, but you'll still be working. So, like, and the older we get, it goes quick, right? Like everyone told
Yeah,
us that when we were 20,
yeah,
and
that's right.
now we're saying that to young
And here
people.
we are. And here,
So that's part of it. But here's the other thing: you get what you expect in life. Um, if you put out the vibe of heart in my world, heartfelt hospitality, you put out a hospitality vibe, you're gonna meet more nice, wonderful, kind people.
isn't that
You know,
amazing?
it's
Isn't
like the
that
law of
amazing?
attraction.
It is.
Psychologists call this confirmation bias. It's actually a thing. Like when you have confirmation bias, you look for things to confirm your previously held beliefs.
Absolutely.
My world, you think all guests are jerks and everybody got meaner since COVID and only people that complain want a refund and they're all scammers. That is what you're going to find.
That's exactly.
Or you expect that kindness, you meet a lot of nice, wonderful relationships.
Yeah, that reminds me of that old song, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles at you, right? And it's true. It's true. When you're in a space of happiness, it just seems
Yeah,
like the clouds part and everything's, you have a really good day at work and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, the world is awesome. You have a really bad day at work or you have a sucky conversation with
yeah.
a really unhappy person that just kills your spirit.
Well,
That's
and
what you see.
it's
That's
really true. But even beyond that, it's almost metaphysical. Like if I'm having that bad day, not only will I find the worst in people, but like bad stuff actually
is gonna
happens. That's
it's
the
gonna
day
happen.
the plane will be late. The rental car will be out of cars. I mean, there will be a traffic
You're
jam.
right.
That literally, I mean, it goes beyond just the vibe that we interact with each other.
That's right.
But I don't
So
know.
how,
That's just my belief.
so no, you're right. You're right. And there's science behind all this.
There
There
is.
really is. And I'm gonna have a doctor on my podcast in the next week or so, and she's going to talk about how the heart actually has intelligence. There is
Oh yeah.
intelligence in the heart. And you and I talk about heart. I mean, in the world that we live in, especially in the world of technology these days,
Yeah.
right? One of the reasons why I started this podcast is because there's so much crap out there that
Yeah.
just is pulling people down. I mean, I
Yeah.
call them messages of inadequacy,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be advertisements or social media, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't live like me, you suck. Or, I mean, and there's so much bad information, and
Yeah.
the thing I love about you, Doug, is that you're out there sharing, you're out there
Yeah,
helping people understand. Stop focusing on that shit, right? I mean,
exactly.
there are
Tune it
things you
out.
can do, and you know what?
And
If you focus on happy, if you focus on heart, that's what you're going to communicate.
and I look back at my career, I'm sure you do too, at some point. I mean, we're relatively the same age range, and you wonder, what have I done? And the things that make me the most proud. I just had somebody earlier this week that sent me a certificate of completion from 1992. Now, I started my company in
Uh-huh.
1983. So I've been training people all those years. She still had it. But just,
Wow.
my latest word, check this one out, micro encounters. Micro encounters are those brief encounters that we have that in today's world are very meaningful. We don't live around, and most of us don't live around an extended family of generations and cousins and everybody else because we all moved around, and
Right.
even if you
Right.
do live with your family, you've got other things. We've got a lot going on in our lives. So what you have are these micro moments. This is what I teach in hospitality. You have that guest that comes back every year. And you actually, some of them are like, "Oh, you remember me?" And the staff is like, "Yeah, I do." But
Yeah.
a lot of them you actually remember,
Right.
and the
Right.
micro conversation you have. I lived in New York for a long time. The person at the subway that was, either an entertainer or a unhoused person, that you would see the same person. You developed a micro encounter,
Yep.
conversations that I have with people. And then years later, they come back and say, "You really changed my world. You changed my career. You changed my way of thinking." And that's the good side of social media. A lot of them now are my Facebook friends. And
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
continue to see when somebody has a new puppy or they've got a new kid, or, my
Right.
son got married 18 months ago. And just like you and I, we've seen each other all together, what, 10 times, 20 times at conferences.
Yep.
They're all micro encounters, but
Yeah.
I always felt they were meaningful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've all heard the story, or maybe not, but one story that really hit me was a story about a woman who was um, going to commit suicide, and she decided not to because a complete stranger said hello to her, just in passing.
Right?
Hi, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was an acknowledgement that she wasn't invisible. And
We
you
have
talk
no
about,
idea.
right? And you talk about these little
Yeah.
things. You and I are just going along our day doing what we do, and we have no idea the little impacts that we have, the little micro
Yeah. And
relationships that we
that's a lot
create.
of what keeps me going. And I train, as I mentioned, I train very upscale m- hotels for the 1% of the one percenters. And then, I was at this other hotel, Siesta, by the way, I'll put a plug in for them, Grenada.
Absolutely.
Unbelievably affordable rooms. They're up on a cliff overlooking a beautiful bay. You got to walk maybe a half a mile to the beach. Once you get there, it's gorgeous.
It's in
It's
Grenada.
in Grenada, Siesta Key. Grenada, by the way, is a great destination. It's like going back in time when I used to train in, the Virgin Islands, Jamaica in the early
Yeah.
90s, the development. But anyways, these people were so present with you. And a lot of resorts, they're so focused on standards like, "Good afternoon, Mr. Kennedy. How are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
How's your,
Yeah.
how's your vacation?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm not actually on vacation. I'm here on business." "Very good. So you're going to the beach, the pool, the spa?" Actually, I'm here on business." "Good, good." There's no connection. But
Yeah.
there, and these were humble people. They had not been through any training. I'm walking to my room. There's a young man walking towards me, and I'm about to go in my room. They don't have fancy uniforms right now. The front desk has beautiful uniforms, but he like looks over at me and I looked over at him. It's very easy to look away, right? But what I try to do is I try to hold that eye contact about the third second, fourth second. That's when you get the smile and a human reaction. And he did the same thing. So we connected and he was already past me. I said, I think he greeted me, "Good afternoon, how are you?" And we had this wonderful conversation. His name is Jade. I probably met 200 employees since that day 2 weeks ago. I remember Jade, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
I remember that moment we had a conversation about his country and about I'm from Miami, and we shared some personal moments um, that just come out.
You know,
That is the heart of it. Somebody from a completely different culture. I asked someone there, I said, how long does it take to drive to the other side of your island nation? Right? It's a little tiny island. They said, I don't know. I've never been there. These are small town people. Like not only live in a
wow.
small country, but in now not all of them, but this,
Yeah, yeah,
the person I spoke with was actually my airport van driver. And yet we had, and me, I've traveled the world, but
yeah,
we had those moments.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So what do you attribute your success of 36 years to?
Well, in the training business, there's a lot of people that have great training, probably as good or better content, probably as good or better presenters, but they don't know how to sell. They don't know how to work it. It takes a lot of work. That's why I've been here through ups and downs and all arounds. And, you usually what happens in my business and in a lot of businesses, you get started, you get comfortable, and um you become satisfied, but you gotta, like I said, I think it's all of the ups and downs that I experienced at a very early age. My fear of poverty, I always push harder, and therefore, if a client gets sold or a person client changes ownership, someone gets fired, client died, I mean, you always got to be looking. So, I work very hard. Now, I have a nice work-life balance. I may work an entire month, but, last year I took off um, about 5 or 6, the equivalent of 5 or 6 weekdays, like 25 or 30 weekdays off. Kathy and I went to Lithuania to trace her heritage. We went to Hawaii. We try to go once a year. I visit my family in Kentucky or family in Pennsylvania, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So what advice based on your experience would you give to the folks listening?
Well, definitely there's so, like you said, there's so many different, your audience is very diverse in every way,
Hmm.
including what businesses they're in. Hospitality is part of every business. In fact, we're going to start a sister company. We're rebranding right now. We're making a new website, new logo. When we're done with that, we're going to copy it for a non-lodging hospitality training, because I'm getting more and more business on a referral basis. I did training for a bank in New Jersey with 500 people. They wanted to learn about hospitality in the purest sense. We're right now talking to an upscale senior community.
Hmm.
So whatever business you're in, you're not going to out tech the competition. A lot of companies are being sold on that dream. Oh, out tech them and add this or that latest gizmo. Keep up with your tech, embrace your tech, but your people are your superpower,
You
and
know,
relationships.
yeah, yeah. That's huge. That's huge. And that's the future. I mean, and what I mean by that, Doug, is that a lot of people are looking at AI. I'm looking at AI. I just bought a
Yeah, we use
Tesla with
it.
I just bought a Tesla with self-driving on it. The thing is incredible.
Yeah,
It's just, I mean, it it drives better than I do.
we used it this morning to come up with some marketing taglines for LinkedIn paid ads.
You used what? A
AI,
Tesla?
AI.
Oh, AI. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, what? And
Well, when
and
your
so,
Tesla
but
do
the,
new
but
taglines, no, we used
no,
AI.
no. And the thing is that people, the knee-jerk reaction is AI is the future,
Yeah,
right? And what you just said, and what I'm trying to tell people is that there is becoming a renaissance of, we've gone so far to one side with
yeah.
technology that we've forgotten the heart in a lot of cases, right? And I think that I've always felt that there's going to be a renaissance, what I call the renaissance of the heart. It's all
I
about
believe it.
people.
I've
And,
been,
huh?
please. No, I was just going to say, you and I have never discussed this because
Right?
all listeners are going to think like we, planned this, but that's exactly what I say. I call it the tech backlash.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
it doesn't mean we're going to all unplug and say goodbye to Google and give away our
No, no.
smartphone, but the fewer interactions you have as a business or as a human, but as a business, let me put it in that context. The fewer interactions you have, they're diminishing every year. AI has taken over the easy stuff.
Right.
What's
Right.
left, you better make the best of because that is your
Right.
only chance to
Exactly.
differentiate yourself. And your competition right now, most competitors want to out tech you, they want to out feature you, right? But not very many are smart enough to try to
It's
out
all
people
about
you.
it's all
So
about
out
people.
people them.
It's all about love. Warren Buffett, I love watching his videos and reading about him. He once said, people never remember price, but they always remember how you treat them.
Oh yeah.
And that is so true. So as this pendulum of technology, I actually believe that it is technology and artificial intelligence that's actually going to force us to get back to our humanity. And
Yeah.
um, and so it's really interesting to see how things are going. And you're right in the middle of it. My
Yeah.
my daughter, she told me, she says, Dad, if you reach one person, if one person listens to one of your
Yeah.
podcasts and you're able to help them and make their life better, would that be a success? And I said, of course. And she said, so do your podcast. Because I was like, why would I do a podcast? Right?
I
Who
was
the
wondering the
heck is
same thing, my friend, because I can imagine
who
how
the heck
much
is going to
effort it
want to
is.
listen to me? And she says,
Yeah.
Dad, she says, do your podcast, give it to the universe, and let people find it. I've had over 50,000 views just on my YouTube
That's
channel. I have almost 2,000 follow. It's crazy. It's crazy,
well, people need to
but
hear you, John, and
we're
it's
out there.
uh,
You
let,
too.
let me just give you some examples of back to the subject we're talking about regarding the tech and in my space lodging. So, we both done experience in the managed vacation rental, where you have the check-in office here and the properties are, 1 to 15 miles away.
Right.
In that sense, people will use self-check-in. They love going straight to
Right.
the homes.
Right.
In hotels, in the year 2014, Hilton announced front desk was going away within a year or two because everyone was going to use smartphone check-in. And they have tried to literally push this technology. If you stay at a Hilton, the key actually says it's time to let me go. They have done everything possible to get people to use self check-in. Now, I saw some JD Power and Associates stats on these. I'm going by memory. I don't have them in front of me, but something like 40% of respondents had the brand app on their smartphone, and something like 20% had used it for self check-in. It did not say how many times. Out
Wow.
of those who used it for self check-in, only 20% of the 40% that had the app. Out of those who used it, 75% contacted the front desk at some point in their stay. More recent anecdotal evidence, I was checking into the
So
vacation.
the point being that no matter how great the technology was, people wanted to
They
talk to
still
people.
want people of all ages. I was just
Everybody.
at the Hilton Logan Airport, a hotel full of business travelers. And I'm waiting there in the queue. Now, if the queue gets long, people start downloading the app
Right.
and using
Right.
it. The queue was about 3 or 4 of us. I was definitely the oldest person there. Most of them were quite young. It's a big tech area in Boston. And I asked the front desk, like how many people actually just check in on their phone and don't come to the desk? He said, oh, a lot. I think 15 or 20%. Now that's an airport hotel full of corporate travelers.
And tech.
So
Yeah.
now it's 2025 and people are still going to the desk.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
one, your smartphone battery is probably dead when you get there. For two, you've already checked into the airline, you selected your seat, you got an Uber by app, or if you rented a car, you used your Avis or Hertz, you went straight to the car, you used maps to get there, like, hey, an actual human is going to greet me and maybe answer a question about breakfast or, the gym. Like, yeah.
And I'll tell you
um,
something. I mean, we all call companies and we all get the automated responses and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you something. The other day, I actually somebody actually answered the phone, and I'm like, and I'm listening, and I'm like, hello? Yeah, can I help you? I'm like, what? You know, and so we're just the pendulum is going to
It's
start swinging back for sure.
and this is another thing. Go ahead.
Just real quick, one thing for uh, you folks, the audience, take the word hospitality, like I said before, and just replace it with people.
Yeah,
You know, Doug and I have been talking about business, the business of hospitality. You know
yeah.
what? We are all in the business of hospitality. If you're dealing with people, you are in the business of hospitality. If you have people come over to your house to hang out, you are in the business. It's all about people, and it's all about how we treat
Always.
people.
And and you're so right. And let's say you have, I don't know what job it is. There may be some where you don't work with people at
Sure.
all. But if you still practice hospitality, you will be happier. You will be uh you will feel that vibe back that you project out. I always say the vibe of hospitality is like taking a flashlight and shining it in a mirror. So you shine a flashlight in a mirror in a dark room. And what happens? It reflects back on you and the beam grows brighter. This is what happens. We need people to believe this in the world today
Yeah,
because, like, to
I
your
love
point
that.
earlier, so much pessimism, so much bad news in the world. You turn, depending on which extreme news channel you listen to, things are either going great or they're going horrible. And the all the stuff on social media, we need people to be kind. When you know, be the change you want to see in the world. That's been said so many times. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
trying to do. I try to take just an extra moment to, you know what I say? Like I go to, if I'm getting gas at night and I got my ice cream craving or I want my Slurpee, I stop and the person like, thank you, hi, how are you? Good. I like, I'm doing very well. And by the way, thank you for being here. And
And they
I
just go,
once
what?
I've seen people
It's like,
like first they
oh,
look
thank
at
you.
you like,
Yeah.
and then they like, no, I mean it, and they're like, and you really feel, what in the Sanskrit language, ancient Sanskrit language, they call kama, which is what we call the warm fuzzies.
Mm,
You know, and that's a vibe we need to share
the
because,
vibe.
to your probably your physician or doctor that's going to be in a future webcast. I want to check that out because, Heart Math Institute found that the heart actually, the electromagnetic field, you and I could be close to one another, not speak, not touch, but simply approach one another's physical presence, and it impacts your brain waves. Heart Math Institute, check it out. Probably that may be what your doctor is going to be talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
There's
it
a
could
med
be.
it's not metaphysical, it's not junk science, it's actually something you can see happening in the human body. We affect each other. And if you've ever worked for people, you know that's true, right? You have that
Oh,
person
yeah.
that literally sucks the energy
Yes.
out
Yes.
of the room when they enter, and you have the customer that lifts everybody up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is amazing. It is, and you know what? It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. I mean,
But you
God,
got to work anyway.
yeah, you gotta be there anyway. You might as well have fun at it. And you know,
Yeah.
Doug, you'd mentioned about some people having jobs that don't involve hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that you're dealing with colleagues, you have people you work with. You know, I don't care if you're an engineer who prefers a closed walls, you're dealing with
Right.
people at some
At the
point
end
in
of the
time,
day, you have a
right?
customer somewhere. That's
Yeah.
what I just spoke at the California Lodging Inspire conference. Customer hospitality is bigger than guest service. And it was exactly that. Like you all have customers, whether it's your vendor partner, your colleague, your coworker, and
Your son, your daughter, your spouse, your partner, your best friend, right? I mean,
yeah,
this is what it's all about, right? And I love, Doug, I'm going to steal that from you. The vibe, the
the
vibe,
vibe, man.
the
Be a
vibe of
vibe flipper.
hospitality.
Actually, I think we have posters now. I'm looking at one in my office in a coffee mug. Flip the vibe, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
5G positivity all the way.
And what you put out comes back. It really does.
like the mirror.
It really does. I have never, let me think. I can't think of a single instance where I've walked up to somebody and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh God, quit being such a jerk." You know, I've never had that.
Yeah.
Gee, why
Yeah.
is that? On the other
You
hand, um, I can attract very negative energy if I choose to, right?
you
But
can.
it's
But
it's so much more fun, and
isn't it fun when you can change, when you can flip the vibe and
yeah,
you take like for me, it's almost a challenge. When I worked on the other side, um, starting from age 9, working for my parents and mom's Kennedy Craft Supply Store, I would see her flip the vibe of customers. Then I was a bellman with Marriott. Then I was front desk, and then I was the reservation manager and front office manager. All along, I used it. Now I'm on the other side of the desk for 36 years. I'm the one traveling the other side of the desk, counter, phone call. I find it a challenge if I have a cranky clerk in front of me to flip their vibe just to show I can.
yeah. And, that was one of those head exploding moments for me. What you just said, Doug. What you just said is you can flip the vibe. You can
Yeah,
flip another person's vibe, but more importantly, you can flip your own vibe.
flip their own vibe.
You can flip your own vibe. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. My quick story. My son, he calls me up one day. We were just in Hawaii. We were in Hawaii at that time, and he was flying back to Seattle, but he had a layover in Los Angeles. And he calls me up from LA and he says, "Dad, all of Alaska Airlines flight computers have gone down."
Oh
This was a
boy.
number of years ago. And he says, all their flights have been canceled. I've got a meeting at Amazon at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I can't miss it. What do I do? And I said, "Where are you?" He says, I'm in the line." He says, there's 30 people in this line and everybody's pissed off. And I said, "Okay, here's what you're gonna do." I didn't say these words,
Yeah,
but what I said was what I meant was flip your vibe,
flip the vibe.
right? And I said, when you get up to the front desk, just understand the only person that's having a worse day than you are is the person behind the
Oh.
counter, right? And I said, so what you're going to say is something to the effect of, "You know what? I am so sorry you're having such a hard time with this. I know it's not
Yeah,
your fault." Right?
it's so
And
smart.
right. And he says,
And
and he said, "You know what?" I said, I don't know if there's anything you can do for me. Maybe not, but I need to be back in Seattle for a meeting at Amazon by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And he says, if there's any way to get me there, if you have to fly me from LA to Newark or from Dallas to Newark to Seattle, anything. He
yeah,
says, "Gosh, I would just so appreciate it. But if you can't, I understand."
I understand.
She just looked at my son said that she just looked at him. And as she looked at him, she looked down on her computer and got to work.
That's right, buddy.
She-
That's right.
Where every
It's,
every single person was told in that line, and of course everybody in that line was like, "Gosh, what are you going to do for me? You got to get,"
yeah,
my son was kind.
I'm a diamond flyer. I'm
Exactly,
medallion.
exactly. They don't care.
Well,
She
and
got him back to Seattle by 7 a.m. the next morning via Dallas and Minneapolis.
that's crazy.
But she got him
This
back.
you
And it's
your
flipping the
son
vibe.
is fortunate, and your daughter too, to have that. In my family, I, I used to, when they were little, I would say, you just go find a nice lady, right? And that became like a thing with us. So now I always tell my kids, if they're in that situation, find a nice lady. Sometimes it's a guy, but whatever. Um, but that works. I had a
And
very
not only
similar,
finding a nice lady, you can find a cranky lady and
turn her
give her
nice.
give her a better day, flip her vibe, right?
I
And
had
yeah.
a real quick similar experience. I was flying to go to the HSMAI Commercial Strategy Conference, which is part of High Tech. This was in Toronto, not this past June, but the one before. I get to New York City, and there was, I forget what it was. Oh, it was fires in Canada, and there was also some kind of weather delay. You know how it is in New
Yep.
York. When New York
Yep.
goes bad, it
I
went
hate New York. I love New
bad.
York, but I hate New York.
And because of the airspace, there's so many flights.
Oh my
And
God.
every flight, and now, by the way, I'm a master at like I have made in 36 years 2,720 presentations. Every one of them I have made it. Sometimes rolling in at 7 in the morning. But anyway, I didn't make it that night. And they said, there's no way you're going to get to Toronto tomorrow. I got a nice lady and she was going to get me there like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, I showed up at Delta the next morning and I checked back and I asked at the Sky Club, the airline lounge when you're a frequent traveler, I said, I just wanted to check with you. There's like everybody was like you were saying, being all cranky. And I said, it's doesn't leave for a few hours, but I thought I'd come early. She said, oh, there's just nothing. I said, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. And I went and sat down and got a coffee. I was going to sit there for 4 hours. And she comes back and says, Mr. Kennedy, we found something. Just like your son. I got to the
It's
conference by 11 in the
kindness
morning.
goes such a long, and you're not doing it because you want something. You're doing it just, because
That's who you
that's who
are.
you are. And yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and like I said, it's so much more fun. I
Yeah.
mean, you and I can talk all kinds of stories of our travels and good
Same life.
situations and bad situations we make into good situations.
Yeah.
But it's all about your humanity. And I love
Rehumanizing the customer is one of my themes, and that's if you want to teach hospitality, whether you call it customer service or whatever, get people to think about the other side of the phone conversation, the other side of the email exchange in our business, the other side of the guest room door, the other side of the in-app message through, a platform. Think about what it's like for them. And
yeah.
the more you do that, automatically, most people become more kind. When we realize it's not check-in number 13 or the next guest in line, you actually have a human being because we dehumanize one another
We do. We
and
do.
we
And
forget.
yeah, and the amazing thing about it, the uh, the amazing thing about it, and sometimes I forget this, but I really, really try modestly not to. Everybody's got something going on.
And you never know.
Everybody has
And you
got
never
something
know.
going on that you have no idea.
Yeah.
Even my next door neighbors have got stuff going on that I'd consider tragic. But when I see them, I just go, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, everything's great, I just lost my brother, but hey, yeah, everything's great, you know. But everybody's got something going on, and if you can,
Let me give you and our listeners a good one. You can find it on YouTube. I first found it, I think somebody sent it to me on Instagram. I think it's a video called 20 minutes earlier, and maybe they have to add the word
oh,
kindness, but it's a pretty amateur made video, but it's very powerful. The first scene is a mom and like a 8-year-old child, and he's totally acting up in like a cafe, and the other people are like, nobody controls their children anymore, bad parenting. And then boom, 20 minutes earlier, you see the same mom at a foster parent adoption and the counselor is saying he's been through a lot, it's going to be a big
oh,
adjustment, and she says, what would you like to do, buddy? You want to go get a donut or an ice cream? 20 minutes earlier. So it goes through a whole series of
yeah,
situations that
yeah.
someone that is, oh, another one is a woman drives up in a really fancy car and goes to the grocery store and buys something with the SNAP
Food
program
food
card.
stamps, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it's used to be called, food stamps. And the person behind her, oh, the lady sees her in the parking lot getting out of a fancy car. Then she ends up in the grocery line behind her. And she says, driving an awful nice car to be on government welfare. And then 20 minutes earlier, use flashes to the same woman dropping her child off with the neighbor, and the neighbor loaned her car. She says, he'll be fine with me. You can use my car to go to the grocery and some things like that. So the more we imagine, because really it's unimaginable what people go through.
Yeah, yeah.
We all got something.
We've all got something, and we've all got something going on, and we've all got something going on. I mean, we're not perfect. We can
Yeah.
all be assholes too. And I mean,
Yeah, just ask
but
my wife, Mr.
yeah, right,
Hospitality
right.
Trainer.
But and this is it's all about our humanity. It's all
Yeah,
about our
we
humanity,
just
and
keep reaching higher and striving for better.
that's right. That's right. Doug, listen, what do you want to leave my audience with?
Believe, be positive, don't let the meanies steal your joy. And that is really the main message because, like we said, there's so many ways that the world beats us down and steals our optimism. Let me see if I can get my own quote right. Pessimism is the enemy of action. I think that's my quote. The more
Okay.
pessimistic you are that, there's nothing's ever going to change, whether in my world or my neighborhood or my community or the planet, then the less likely you are to take action. And right now, I happen to care about a lot of things that a lot of people don't, like in the world today, like the planet, which has always been, I realize our time on this earth is so short. The one thing we can leave to our great grandchildren is clean air and water.
Yep.
But we got to still believe, in whatever it
Yep.
is you're taking on for your cause, believe in it. And, just the little micro encounters that you have every day cause others to believe. So believe in kindness, believe in joy, believe in humanity. Let's get together. Let's make this world a better place.
And you know what? In your world of hospitality, in our world of hospitality, in all of our worlds of
Yeah,
hospitality, working with people, you know, if you can't, if you find yourself in a way where you can't brighten your day, try going out and brightening somebody else's.
yeah. That's
It's amazing. It's
well,
amazing what can happen.
I do have one more thing to leave. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
good for you. One thing that I learned, and I learned this probably we learn same things, lessons deeper over the years. And I always thought I was a grateful person, but when COVID hit, I really thought my business was going to be done for several years. And my wife is a seventh generation dairy farmer's daughter. She's the only one that left the farm and went into the hotel business at age 18. But she was like, you got to believe, don't give up, be grateful. And I was grateful for her because, she would be happy with the most humble of means. And I started around that time a new habit. It was called a gratitude moment. Every morning, I practice it this morning. When my
Ah,
phone alarm goes off, I hit pause for 5 minute snooze, but I don't go back to sleep. And I think of everything I have to be grateful for. Now, some people might be listening and saying, well, I'm having a hard time in life. I don't have anything. Well, first of all, we all should be grateful we woke up. Did you wake up in a house? Okay. We don't
you
have to
guys,
talk
I
about,
know that some of you guys are hearing an echo when Doug is talking, but go on, Doug.
say
Go
this a
on.
lot in your other podcasts. We don't have to look at
Amazing.
Gaza or Ukraine or anywhere else. Look in your own communities here in Florida. You woke up in a house. Some people didn't. Did you have food? Did someone tell you they loved you when you left today or when you get home tonight? And then be grateful for the tiniest of things because even if you're sick and even if you're ill, somebody's got it worse, I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, gratitude is everything.
It's a
And I
superpower.
do it a little bit differently because what I do every night when I go to bed is I go to bed and I think of something I'm grateful for.
Well, there you go.
And it just it lets me go to sleep with a little bit of peace.
We're
And
in the mirror, yin and
it
yang
works.
here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But very similar. I guess that's why our micro encounters have met so much over the years, John.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Doug, thank you for joining me. Thank you for shining your light our direction, and thanks for all you're doing. I believe that we all share a common purpose, and that's to make the world better than the day we landed on it. And you're doing that as part of your business. which is really, really wonderful. So congratulations, congratulations on your success. And folks, if you guys are looking for any hospitality training, Kennedy Training Network, and this is Doug Kennedy. Doug, I love you, brother. Thank you.
Love you too, man.
And all you, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and please share this, and we'll see you next time. Bye.